I want you to picture a scenario. It's, let's say it's 4:00 p.m. on a Tuesday.
Oh, the worst time of the week.
The worst. And you're staring at a piece of work that was just submitted. Maybe it's from a colleague or a direct report, or heck, maybe it's just a messy room left by your teenager.
I can already feel the blood pressure rising, the classic Tuesday afternoon slump combined with, a crisis.
Exactly. You look at it and you know it's wrong, it's sloppy, it's incorrect, or it's not what you asked for.
Yep.
And now you have to go talk to them, you have to tell them they're wrong, and you have to get them to fix it.
The universal dread. It is the moment every single leader, every parent, every partner just fears.
It's total dread. Because you know that the moment you open your mouth, to correct them, you are walking into a minefield. You risk triggering their defensiveness, you risk killing their motivation, or worse, you risk them actively resenting you.
For a long time, too.
So the question we are wrestling with today is this. How do you tell someone they're wrong without making them hate you?
And not just how do you avoid the hate, but how do you actually get them to want to fix it? How do you turn a correction into a moment of growth rather than a moment of conflict?
That is the holy grail. And to find the answer, we are going back to the source. We are dusting off a book that I think everyone has heard of, many have probably bought, but very few have actually studied the way we're going to study it today.
You're talking about How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
That's the one.
Now, before you, the listener, roll your eyes, because I get it. It is the most famous self-help title in history. We need to be really clear about what we're doing here.
Right.
This is not the smile and shake hands part of the book.
Right.
We are not talking about being the life of the party.
No, we're skipping the popularity contest. We are doing a forensic deep dive specifically into part 4 of the book.
Yes.
Carnegie titled this section, Be a Leader.
Which is so interesting because Carnegie's definition of leadership in this text is, it's very specific. He's not talking about visionary strategy or asset allocation or stock prices.
No, nothing like that.
He defines leadership as human engineering.
I love that term, human engineering. It sounds almost cold, doesn't it? Like we're robots or something. But when you actually read the text, it's deeply empathetic.
It is. Because human engineering implies that there are mechanics to the human ego. Just like an engine has pistons and valves, the human personality has pride, it has dignity, and a deep need for importance.
Okay, so it's a system.
It's a system, and if you understand the mechanics, you can get the machine to run smoothly. If you ignore them, if you just take a sledgehammer to the engine, it breaks.
So our mission today is to unpack the manual for that engine.
That's it.
We are going to cover the 9 principles of leadership that Carnegie outlined way back in 1936. We've got the original text, we've got modern psychological research to back it all up, and we have the case studies.
And the case studies are wild. I mean, we're going to look at everyone from Abraham Lincoln and Calvin Coolidge to factory managers and, frustrated parents. These aren't abstract theories. These are real people navigating the messy reality of the human ego.
So let's get into the machinery. Carnegie groups these principles, and the first cluster is really all about the approach. It's what we might call the soft start.
The soft start is absolutely critical because of how the human brain processes threats.
Right.
When you approach someone with criticism, their brain, specifically the amygdala, it registers that as a social threat. It's a literal fight or flight trigger.
A social threat.
Yeah, evolutionarily, being told you were wrong could mean exile from the tribe, which meant death. So the brain it panics.
So physically, they're bracing for impact before you even finish your sentence. Their heart rate goes up, their palms might get sweaty.
Exactly. Their cortisol spikes, their defensive walls go straight up.
So principle number 1 is designed to completely disarm that biological response.
And that is?
Principle 1, begin with praise and honest appreciation. Carnegie uses a very visceral metaphor for this. He compares the leader to a dentist.
It is the perfect analogy. He says, the dentist begins his work with Novocain. Now stick with me here.
Okay.
The patient still gets the drilling. The Novocain doesn't fix the tooth. The drill fixes the tooth. The work still has to be done. But the Novocain makes the drilling bearable.
It dulls the pain so the work can happen.
It dulls the pain.
I think a lot of managers get this wrong. They think, I don't have time for fluff. I need to be efficient. I need to just say what's wrong. So they walk in and they just start drilling immediately.
And they hit a nerve. And what happens? The patient jumps, screams, and pushes them away. Efficiency without empathy is actually incredibly inefficient because you spend the next hour dealing with all the emotional fallout.
You have to clean up the mess you made by being too blunt.
Precisely.
Let's look at how this works in the wild. Carnegie tells the story of Calvin Coolidge. Silent Cal. Not exactly a man known for his warm and fuzzy demeanor.
No. Coolidge was stoic, famously a man of very few words. But this story is brilliant because it shows how calculated this Novocain approach can be.
So set the scene for us.
Okay, picture it. It's the 1920s, the Oval Office. A friend is visiting Coolidge, and Coolidge is just sitting at his desk while a young secretary is typing away in the background.
And Coolidge just interrupts the silence.
Out of nowhere. He turns to the secretary and he says, "That's a very pretty dress you were wearing this morning, and you are a very attractive young woman."
Okay, I'm holding my breath here. In 2026 HR terms, that is, let's just say complicated.
Extremely complicated, yes. And we definitely need to acknowledge the dated gender dynamics there. But let's put a pin in that for a second and just focus on the structure of the interaction, the psychology of what he did.
Okay.
The secretary is stunned. She blushes. She's totally confused because Cal never, ever pays compliments. She's completely disarmed. She's feeling good.
She's probably waiting for the other shoe to drop. Or maybe she's just basking in this weird, unexpected praise.
And right when her defenses are at their lowest, Coolidge pivots. He says, "Now, don't get stuck up. I just said that to make you feel good. From now on, I wish you would be a little more careful with your punctuation."
Wow, that is ruthlessly honest. He literally told her, "I am manipulating you."
He did. It's so blunt. But here's the thing. It still worked. Even though he admitted it was a tool, the fact that he took the time to notice her and validate her first meant that the criticism about punctuation didn't crush her spirit.
Right.
It became a technical correction rather than a character assassination. He separated her worth as a person from her error in punctuation.
It reminds me of the old sandwich method we hear about in corporate training. Compliment, criticism, compliment. But I feel like people see through that nowadays. It just feels robotic.
They do. If it's formulaic,
Yeah.
Of course. If you just say, "Nice shirt, you're fired, nice shoes," it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Carnegie actually warns about this specifically. He distinguishes between flattery and appreciation. Flattery is vague. It comes from the teeth out. Appreciation is specific. It comes from the heart.
So if Coolidge had just said, "You're a great person, now fix the typos," it wouldn't have landed the same way. It had to be something he actually noticed.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But let's look at a higher stakes business example, because I know some listeners might be thinking, well, that's just a secretary. Carnegie talks about a man named W.P. Gaw of the Work Company in Philadelphia.
This is the construction story. I love this one because the pressure is just so high.
It's immense. They're building a massive office building. Tight deadline, millions and millions of dollars at play, and the subcontractor who is making the ornamental bronze work is stalling. He's completely dragging his feet.
And in construction, that's a bottleneck, right? You can't finish the lobby if the bronze isn't there. The whole schedule just slides.
The whole thing grinds to a halt, so the project is at risk. Now, standard management logic says, escalate, call the guy, scream at him, threaten to sue, tell him he'll never work in this town again.
The drill without Novocain, just pure brute force.
Which Gaw knew would just make the guy defensive. He'd blame the supply chain, he'd blame the labor market, he'd just dig in his heels.
So what did he do instead?
So Gaw goes to Philadelphia, finds the guy, and invites him to lunch.
A peace summit. But notice, he didn't call him into the office to yell at him, he took him to lunch.
A neutral, social setting. And at lunch, Gaw doesn't even talk about the delay, not at first. He starts talking about the man's history. He says, I was looking at your portfolio. Your name is the only one in Brooklyn associated with this level of quality.
Wow.
He talks about the specific alloys the guy uses. He praises his reputation as a master craftsman.
He's filling up the emotional bank account before he makes a withdrawal.
That is exactly what it is. He is reminding the man of who he is, a master craftsman. And by the end of lunch, the subcontractor who knows he's late, remember the guilt is definitely there.
Yeah.
He starts to feel something else.
What's that?
He feels seen. He feels respected. Gaw hasn't scolded him at all, yet the guy says, I know I've been holding you up. I'm going to fix it. I'll have the stuff there this week.
He volunteered the solution without even being asked.
Because Gaw affirmed his identity as a master craftsman.
Mm-hmm.
And a master craftsman doesn't miss deadlines. A master craftsman delivers quality. By praising the identity, he forced the behavior to catch up.
That is such a crucial distinction. You're not just saying nice things to be nice. You are reinforcing the very identity that leads to the behavior you want.
Exactly. You're aligning their ego with your goal.
Okay, so we've applied the Novocain. Now we have to actually do the work. We have to address the error. This brings us to principle 2. Call attention to people's mistakes indirectly.
This is all about face. In many Asian cultures, saving face is the single most important social currency. In the West, we really undervalue it. We think straight talk is better. We say, I call a spade a spade.
But Carnegie argues that direct criticism it's an attack on the ego.
A direct attack.
It forces the person to admit out loud, I am wrong and you are right, and the human brain hates doing that. It hurts, like physically.
It hates it. It triggers cognitive dissonance. The brain says, I am a smart, capable person, but the criticism says you just made a stupid mistake. And those two things clash. So the indirect approach allows the person to correct themselves without having to verbally submit to you.
The classic case here is Charles Schwab.
The steel magnate, a man who was paid a salary of $1 million a year in the 1920s, mostly because of his ability to handle people.
Which is an insane amount of money for that time. That's like tens of millions today.
Just unbelievable. So Schwab is walking through one of his steel mills. He looks up and he sees a group of employees smoking.
Okay, standard break time.
No. They are smoking directly underneath a huge lit-up sign that says, no smoking.
Wow. Okay, so that is either an act of defiance or just total oblivion.
Right. Now imagine the average manager here. They walk over, they point at the sign, and they say, can't you guys read? Put those out now.
It's the logical response. I mean, they're breaking a safety rule. It's dangerous.
It is logical, but it's psychologically expensive. You've just humiliated them. You've established dominance. They'll put the cigarettes out for sure, but the moment you leave, they'll light up again, and they will resent you. They'll think you're a tyrant.
So what does Schwab do? The $1 million man.
He walks over, reaches into his pocket, pulls out some very nice cigars, and hands one to each of the men.
Wait, he gave them a gift? He rewarded the bad behavior?
He gave them a gift. But think about the layers of what just happened. 1, he acknowledged the smoking. He saw it. 2, he never explicitly mentioned the rule or the sign. Never. And 3, he asked them for a favor. He said, I'll appreciate it, boys, if you will smoke these on the outside.
He didn't order them. He asked for a favor.
And employees. They knew that he knew. They knew they were caught. But because he didn't force them to admit it, because he saved their face, they felt a wave of gratitude. They probably admired him for it. He preserved their dignity while correcting the behavior.
That's the indirect part. He didn't say you are wrong. He just implied the correction through a positive gesture.
And this leads to a very specific tactical piece of advice that Carnegie gives, which I think is one of the most useful things in the entire book.
What's that?
It's the battle of but versus and.
I catch myself doing this constantly. It's such a linguistic trap.
It's the eraser word. We try to use the sandwich method, right? We say, Johnny, we are really proud of your grades this term, but you failed algebra.
And psycholinguistically, what happens when Johnny hears that word but?
He discards everything that came before it. The but signals that the praise was just a setup. It was just the sugar coating on the poison pill. It makes the praise feel manipulative.
It tells Johnny, Dad didn't really mean the nice stuff. He just wanted to yell at me about algebra.
That's all he hears. So the fix is just a one-word swap.
You replace but with and.
Listen to the difference. Johnny, we are really proud of your grades this term, and if you continue this same effort, we know your algebra grades will go up next term.
It feels completely different. It's supportive rather than critical.
It changes the geometry of the relationship, but places you across the table, opposing him, and places you on the same side of the table, looking forward together. It links the past success to the future improvement.
You're saying you are a good student, and good students can conquer algebra.
Exactly.
I love that. Changes the geometry of the relationship. That is something every listener can try today.
There's one more example for this principle that I just find hilarious. It's about the mayor of a town who had an open-door policy.
Oh, right. He wanted to be accessible to the people, transparency and all that.
But his staff, being protective bureaucrats, they kept the door closed. They wanted to filter the visitors. They thought they were helping, or maybe they just liked the quiet.
He could have called a meeting. He could have sent a stern memo. Keep the door open. I am the mayor.
Right, the direct approach. Instead, he walked over to the door, took the hinges off, and removed the door completely.
That is a power move.
It's the ultimate indirect correction. He didn't scream. He didn't argue. He just physically removed the barrier. The staff got the message instantly, but nobody got yelled at. It was a symbolic act that enforced the rule without a verbal fight.
It's dramatic, but it worked. Okay, so moving on to principle 3. This one seems to help if you're in a position of authority and you need to correct someone with a fragile ego. Principle 3. Talk about your own mistakes before criticizing the other person.
This is all about leveling the playing field. When you're the boss or the parent, you're standing on a pedestal. You seem infallible. And that height difference creates distance and resentment. The subordinate feels small.
So principle 3 is about climbing down from the pedestal.
It's the humility bridge. You meet them where they are.
I like that, the humility bridge.
Carnegie tells a personal story about his niece, Josephine. She came to work for him as his secretary. She was 19 years old, fresh out of high school.
And Carnegie was, in his 40s at this point?
Yeah, a seasoned businessman, an author, a lecturer, a big deal. So naturally, Josephine messes up. She makes a mistake.
Of course.
And Carnegie's about to tear into her. He's about to launch into this whole lecture about competence. And then he stops himself. He asks a very fair question. Wait a minute. I have 20 years of experience. Is it fair to expect a 19-year-old to have the judgment of a 40-year-old?
He remembers his own youth. He puts himself in her shoes.
He remembers that at 19, he was arguably much worse. He was making huge blunders all over the place. So he changes his script. Instead of "you messed up," he starts with, "Josephine, you've made a mistake, but the Lord knows it's no worse than many I have made. You are actually better than I was at your age."
That immediately takes all the sting out. It stops being, "I am smart and you are dumb."
It validates her potential while correcting the specific error. It becomes, "I was worse, so you're actually doing okay. But based on my experience, here's a better way to do it." It frames the correction as mentorship rather than punishment.
It says, "I'm giving you a shortcut that I had to learn the hard way."
Exactly.
But does this work when the stakes are higher? I mean, Carnegie uses an example that is literally about an emperor.
The German Kaiser, Wilhelm II. This is a great historical nugget. The Kaiser was known for being, arrogant, bombastic, and he made a massive public relations blunder, said some things to the press that horrified all of Europe. He basically insulted an entire nation in a newspaper interview.
A diplomatic nightmare.
A total disaster. And Prince von Bülow, the imperial chancellor, had to go tell the emperor, "Your Majesty, you really messed up.
Yeah.
You need to retract this." Now, in imperial Germany, you don't just insult the Kaiser.
No, that's a good way to get fired or exiled. Or worse.
So von Bülow uses principle 3. He walks in and he starts by praising the Kaiser's genius in naval matters and military strategy. He says, "Your Majesty, in these areas, you are light years ahead of me. I am humble in the face of your knowledge. I could possibly know what you know about ships."
He builds the pedestal up even higher first.
And then he pivots. However, in matters of diplomacy and political nuance, perhaps my experience allows me to see things from a slightly different angle.
He admitted his own inferiority in some areas to buy the right to correct the Kaiser in this specific area.
And it worked. The Kaiser accepted the rebuke because his ego was safe.
Yeah.
Von Bülow hadn't said, "You are stupid." He said, "You are a genius who has a blind spot, and I'm just here to help you cover that blind spot."
So that wraps up the soft start.
Yeah.
1, use Novocain the praise. 2, go indirect, don't point at the sign. 3, be humble, admit your own flaws first.
If you do those 3 things, you've basically prepared the soil. The person is listening, they aren't defensive, and hopefully they don't hate you. Now you have to actually lead them to do the work.
Which brings us to section 2. Leading without dictating. This is about the mechanics of giving orders.
Or, more accurately, not giving orders.
Right. Principle 4, ask questions instead of giving direct orders.
This is the shift from compliance to commitment. If I give you an order, do this report by Friday, you'll do it. That's compliance. But you'll probably do the bare minimum to not get fired. Your heart just isn't in it.
And if something goes wrong, I'm not going to stress about it because it was your order. It's your problem, not mine.
Exactly. You have zero ownership. But if I ask a question, "We need this report by Friday, how do you think we can get that done given the other priorities?" Now your brain turns on. You start problem solving. You say, "Well, if I move this meeting."
Carnegie introduces us to Owen D. Young, a titan of industry.
A massive figure. And his colleagues said that in 3 years, they never once heard him give a direct order. Not a single one.
3 years without saying, "do this."
Yeah.
That seems almost impossible for a CEO.
Never do this or don't do that.
Yeah.
It was always, "You might consider this," or "Do you think this would work?" When he dictated a letter, he would turn to his assistant and ask, "What do you think of this phrasing?"
He was inviting them into the process. He was making them collaborators.
And by doing that, he was letting them fix his mistakes and, more importantly, offering them agency. There's a case study here involving Ian McDonald, a factory manager in South Africa.
The machine parts order?
Right. A massive order comes in.
Yeah.
It's a huge opportunity for the factory. But the deadline is, it's just impossible. To meet it, everyone would have to work grueling overtime, cancel weekends, everything.
That's a recipe for burnout and strikes.
Oh, absolutely. If he had walked out and just said, mandatory overtime starting tomorrow, no exceptions, the morale would have collapsed. The quality would have dropped. The workers would have felt like slaves.
So he called a town hall meeting.
He gathered the team. He laid out the facts. Here's the order. Here's what it means for the company. Here's the deadline. And then he stopped talking.
And he asked,
is there anything we can do to handle this? How would you guys structure the shifts to make this work?
He put the problem in their lap.
And because they were the ones proposing the solution, we can split the shifts like this. We can come in early here if we get a longer break there. They owned it. It was their plan. They accepted the overtime because it wasn't his decree. They met the deadline cheerfully.
That word cheerfully is the key, isn't it? You can get people to work hard by yelling, but you can't get them to work cheerfully.
That requires autonomy. It requires the feeling that they chose to do the hard thing.
Principle 5 flows right out of this. If you're asking questions and collaborating, you are, by definition, respecting their dignity. And Principle 5 is, let the other person save face.
Carnegie quotes the French aviation pioneer Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. And it's a profound quote. He says, I have no right to say or do anything that diminishes a man in his own eyes. What matters is not what I think of him, but what he thinks of himself. Hurting a man in his dignity is a crime.
A crime? That's a heavy moral judgment. That's not just bad management, it's a crime.
But in business, it's also a massive strategic error. If you destroy someone's face, you destroy their loyalty and their future productivity. The example of Charles Steinmetz at General Electric is fascinating here.
Steinmetz, the wizard of Schenectady.
A brilliant, brilliant mind, an absolute genius in electricity, but not a manager. Not at all. And GE made the classic mistake of promoting him to head of a department.
The classic Peter principle, promoting someone to their level of incompetence.
Exactly. He was failing. The department was a mess. He just couldn't handle the administrative burden. So GE had this dilemma. They couldn't fire him. He was the wizard. They needed his brain, but they couldn't leave him in charge.
It's a really delicate situation. How do you demote a genius without insulting him? How do you tell Einstein he's a bad administrator?
You get creative with titles.
Yeah.
GE created a brand new position just for him. Consulting engineer of the General Electric Company.
That sounds incredibly prestigious. It sounds better than department head, honestly.
It sounds like a promotion. It allowed him to do exactly what he wanted, research and engineering, and it freed him from what he hated, which was administration. But because they gave him a title that sounded so important, he didn't feel demoted. He felt honored.
They solved the business problem, which was bad management, without creating a personnel problem, which would have been a resentful genius.
Now contrast that with the other story Carnegie tells about the vice president who just chewed out a supervisor in a meeting.
The public dressing down, we've all seen this or been in the room for it. It's awkward and just terrible for everyone.
The VP just unloaded on this guy, questioned his competence, yelled at him in front of his peers. The VP probably felt great in the moment. He felt powerful. He was holding people accountable.
And the result, what happened to the supervisor?
He just shut down. His performance evaporated. He withdrew socially from the team. He eventually resigned and went to a competitor. The VP won the argument in the meeting, but he lost a valuable asset for the company. It was expensive emotional venting.
It's so short-sighted. You might win the argument, but you lose the person.
You have to always ask, is my goal to vent or is my goal to improve performance? If it's performance, let them save face. Even if they're completely 100% wrong, let them keep their dignity.
Okay, so we've corrected the behavior. Now we want to accelerate growth. We're moving into section 3, the psychology of improvement.
This is where we shift from don't do that to do more of this. It's the positive reinforcement part.
And it starts with principle 6. Praise the slightest improvement and praise every improvement.
This is pure B.F. Skinner. This is operant conditioning. The basic law of psychology is simple. Behavior that is reinforced gets repeated. Behavior that is ignored or punished tends to extinguish.
But Carnegie adds a really important nuance. Praise the slightest improvement.
That's the shaping technique. If you wait for perfection to praise someone, you will wait forever. You have to praise the steps toward perfection. If a kid gets a D- on a test, and then the next test gets a D+, you praise the D+. You don't say, it's still a D. You say, you went up. That's progress.
There's a really moving story in the book here about a factory boy in Naples, Italy.
This is a classic hero's journey story. A young boy working in a factory, poor, no education. He has this one dream. He wants to be a singer.
And his first teacher.
Brutal. Absolutely brutal. The teacher tells him, you can't sing, you haven't got a voice, you sound like the wind in the shutters.
Wind in the shutters. That is just poetically devastating.
Imagine hearing that as a 10-year-old. It would crush you. It would kill the dream right there for most people. But his mother, a poor peasant woman, she refused to accept it. She put her arms around him. She told him she knew he could sing. She told him she could hear the improvement just from last week.
She went barefoot to save money for his lessons.
That mother's faith, that praise, was the fuel. She praised the slightest improvement. And because of that reinforcement, that boy kept practicing. That boy was Enrico Caruso.
Who became the most famous opera singer of his generation.
Maybe of all time. And without that praise, without that encouragement, the world loses Caruso. We just get a sad factory worker.
It makes you wonder how many Carusos have been crushed by a critic who didn't understand this one principle.
So many. And this applies to mundane things, too. Carnegie talks about a man named John Ringelspaugh and his kids.
The universal parenting struggle.
He and his wife were just nagging constantly, pick up your room, don't do that, sit up straight. It created this toxic, negative atmosphere. And the kids just tuned them out, so they flipped the script. They decided to ignore the bad behavior completely and only comment on the good.
So, hey, you hung up your coat. Good job.
Wow, you made your bed without being asked. And slowly, the bad behavior atrophied because it wasn't getting the reward of attention, because even negative attention is a form of attention. And the good behavior blossomed because it was being fed.
But again, we have to warn against the generic good job. That's not what this is about.
No, not at all. Carnegie emphasizes specific praise. He mentions a guy named Keith Roper at a print shop. He didn't just walk by a pressman and say, nice work. He stopped, he picked up a print, and he said, the register on this is perfect. The ink coverage is incredibly consistent. This is superior work because of X, Y, and Z.
That does two things, right? One, it proves you're sincere, you actually looked. And two, it teaches them exactly what good looks like so they can do it again.
Specificity breeds credibility.
Principle 7 is a bit of a Jedi mind trick. Give the other person a fine reputation to live up to.
This is labeling theory in sociology. If I label you lazy, you will unconsciously start to act lazy. If I label you reliable, you will feel an internal pressure to live up to that label.
The story of Henry Henk, the truck dealer.
Yeah. Hank had a mechanic, Bill, who was slipping. His work was getting sloppy. Now, Hanky could have said, Bill, you're getting lazy. Shape up.
Which would have made Bill defensive. He would have just said, I'm not lazy. The cars are junk.
Of course. Instead, Hanky calls him in and says, Bill, you are an excellent mechanic. We know your work. You've been doing outstanding work for this company for years. We value your expertise. But this recent stuff, it just isn't like you.
He defined Bill's identity as excellent.
So for Bill to continue being sloppy, he has to betray his own identity. He has to admit to himself, I am not excellent. And most people will work incredibly hard to resolve that dissonance.
Yeah.
They want to be the person you think they are.
It's like that story of the dishonest maid.
Right. It's a great example. There was a woman employing a servant who had a reputation for stealing. The new employer said, I'm hiring you because I've heard so much about your honesty. I know I can trust you with my keys.
She just handed her the keys.
She handed over the keys. She effectively handcuffed the maid to honesty. The maid was terrified of losing that fine reputation she'd just been given, and she became the most honest servant the woman ever had.
Principle 8 works in tandem with this. It's use encouragement. Make the fault seem easy to correct.
This is all about self-efficacy. If you tell someone, you are terrible at math, you will never get it. You've just created a massive mountain. And they look at the mountain, they say, I can't possibly climb that. And they quit.
But if you say, you have a natural flair for numbers, you just need to learn this one little trick, the mountain suddenly becomes a molehill.
Carnegie contrasts two dance teachers here. Teacher A tells a student, you're all wrong. You have to unlearn everything you know and start over from scratch.
Oof, spirit crushed.
Student quits immediately.
Yeah.
Teacher B lies a little. She says, you have a natural sense of rhythm, bit of a hidden talent. You just need to work on the steps.
The little white lie that saves the dream.
It gave him hope. It made the fault just learning the steps seem small and manageable compared to the natural talent he supposedly had.
There's a funny story here about pears. Dalo Ferrier and his son.
Ah, yes, the great pear-picking struggle. The son, Jeff, just refused to pick up the pears in the yard. It was a chore he hated. Dad could have yelled. He could have threatened. Instead, he gamified it.
Gamification in the 1930s. I love it.
He said, I'll make you a deal. For every basket you fill up, I'll give you $1. But for every single pear I find left in the grass after you're done, you owe me $1.
High stakes. That's brilliant.
Suddenly, the fault leaving a pear behind wasn't a failure of character. It was a point loss in a game. It was easily correctable. The boy picked them up willingly and even double-checked the grass. He wanted to win.
Dad made the fault easy to correct and the success fun to achieve.
Exactly.
This brings us to the final section, Section 4, the ultimate alignment, and the capstone, Principle 9.
This is the one that ties it all together. Make the other person happy about doing the thing you suggest.
This sounds like manipulation, but at its core, it's really about incentive alignment.
It's about figuring out what they want and linking it directly to what you want. The story of Gunter Schmidt, the grocery store manager.
Right. He had a clerk who kept forgetting to put price tags on the shelves. It's a small thing, but it's annoying. Customers were complaining.
He could have nagged her. Put the tags up. How many times do I have to tell you? But that's boring. It's a chore. Instead, he called her into his office and appointed her supervisor of price tag posting.
A promotion. With a corner office, I assume.
Well, a title. But for her, it was status. It was ownership. She wasn't just a clerk following orders anymore. She was the supervisor. She took pride in it. The shelves were never untagged again.
He gave her a title, which gave her status, and she gave him performance, which was the price tags. Everybody wins.
There's also the art of the diplomatic refusal. How do you say no without making an enemy?
This is such a crucial skill for anyone. Someone invites you to speak at an event or to a dinner, and you just can't go.
If you just say, no, I'm busy, they feel rejected. They feel like their event isn't important to you. Carnegie suggests the immediate substitute.
I can't do it, but you know who would be absolutely amazing? My friend Bob.
Why does that work? Because you aren't just closing a door. You are opening a new window for them. You are helping them solve their problem, which is finding a speaker. They stop thinking about your rejection and they start thinking about Bob. You've made them happy about the alternative.
Carnegie actually gives a checklist for this principle. It's almost like a formula for negotiation.
It is. It's a 6-step check. 1, be sincere. 2, know exactly what you want done. 3, be empathetic. What do they actually want? 4, consider the benefits to them. 5, match those benefits to their wants. 6, and finally, frame the request in terms of their benefit.
That last one is the key. Frame the request in terms of their benefit. Not, I need the stockroom swept because I hate the mess, but if you sweep the stockroom, you'll be able to find stock faster and get out of here earlier on Friday.
It requires you to step out of your own ego and step completely into theirs.
So we've unpacked all 9 principles. That was a lot. Let's do a rapid-fire recap for the listener who is trying to hold all this in their head.
Let's do it. The leadership lightning round.
Principle 1.
Begin with praise. The Novocain before the drill.
Principle 2.
Call attention to mistakes indirectly. Don't point at the sign. Hand out the cigars. Replace but with and.
Principle 3.
Talk about your own mistakes first. Build the humility bridge.
Principle 4.
Ask questions instead of giving orders. What do you think? Creates ownership.
Principle 5.
Let the other person save face. Dignity is non-negotiable. Don't be that VP who yells in the meeting.
Principle 6.
Praise the slightest improvement. Be the mother of Caruso. Shape the behavior you want.
Principle 7.
Give them a fine reputation to live up to. Label them excellent, and they will strive to remain excellent.
Principle 8.
Make the fault seem easy to correct. It's just the steps, not the rhythm.
Principle 9.
Make them happy to do what you suggest. Give them a title. Align your goals with their desires.
It is a powerful toolkit.
Yeah.
But I have to ask the difficult question. The criticism that has dogged this book for, 90 years now?
Is it manipulative?
Yes.
Yes.
Is this just a bag of sociopathic tricks to get people to do your bidding?
It's a fair question. It really is. And if you use these techniques mechanically, if you praise someone you don't respect just to get them to work harder, then yes, that is manipulation. And people will smell it from a mile away. We have a very good radar for fakes.
Carnegie addresses this, doesn't he?
Repeatedly. He says, the principles taught in this book will work only when they come from the heart.
From the heart.
The real work isn't memorizing the script. The real work is changing your attitude. To use Principle 1 effectively, You have to actually look for something to appreciate in that person. To use principle 5, you have to actually care about the other person's dignity.
So it's not just about influencing them, it's about disciplining yourself.
Exactly. It's human engineering, but you are the machine that needs the most tuning. You are training yourself to be kinder, more observant, and more patient. And if you do that, the influence it takes care of itself.
That is a fantastic place to leave it. So here's my challenge to you, the listener. Don't try to overhaul your entire personality today. Just pick one principle.
Right.
Maybe the next time you have to correct a mistake, try the Novocain. Or try swapping one but for one and see what happens.
It might just change the outcome completely.
Thanks for diving deep with us.